welcome back to Outside the Box, our department podcast. We are driving performance in and around the city of Sugar Land. I'm your host, Kevin. Today I'm joined by Chief Ken Prillaman. Thanks for joining us.
Oh, what a pleasure.
And today, this is kind of a special one. We're going to talk about taking opportunities.
Okay.
And seeing chances as opportunities. So before we dive into that, let's meet Ken. Tell us about you. Where are you coming from? What's your background?
Well, without making it an extrapolated, very long story, I got in the fire service as a volunteer in 1978. Yeah, that's correct, 78. It's hard to believe that, it's going on 48 years, and but I still love it, like I did, when I first joined. I worked for several different fire departments. I've been chief of department 3 different times, Minnesota, and then Texas. I retired from active duty 2 years ago as the fire chief in Wichita Falls, Texas, and now I get to wear 3 or 4 hats. I'm here this week in Sugar Land on behalf of TEACS. We're teaching a Fire Officer 4 class to folks from within and outside the organization. I have a chance to serve as the Director of Professional Development for the Texas Fire Chiefs Association, a job that I love dearly, and we host a variety of leadership development platforms and more coming. There's some pretty exciting stuff on the horizon for the Chiefs Association. And I run a little consulting business. I help jurisdictions with their ISO evaluation and do some private leadership development, one department at a time. So I get to choose what I work on, and I get to enjoy still being close to the fire service, fire stations, and more importantly, the men and women that are protecting our cities.
I love it. And you remind me of the commercial of, a few things because you've seen a few things. There's just a little bit of experience to draw back on. And since you mentioned it, we'll even throw in the plug that Fire Chiefs Academy has the Company Officer Symposium instructor group they're building, right? That looking for some of that talent.
Yeah. So the things that are coming is a rebranding and a redesign of our company officer experience. It's actually going to move from the symposium format into more of a structured academy.
Nice.
That's going to have a cadre of instructors. We're going to have created the curriculum. In fact, it's nearly done, and we're going to teach instructors how to deliver it. So company officers across the state will receive kind of a consistent curriculum of things that a group have put together in terms of the types of things that help enhance a company officer's success. I believe it's perhaps the most important role in the firehouse, and I believe there's a real disconnect, the disconnect between the amount of time that we're able to spend with lieutenants and captains versus our expectations for that group. And this academy is intended to close that gap. And then on the heels of that, we've got kind of a pilot group that's beginning to kick around the idea of a training chief academy, one that's specifically focused on the challenges associated with running the training division of your local fire department, including managing hours, documentation, accountability, and the use of your company officers to supplement your training division. So we're pretty excited about what's going on, and I'm thrilled to be a part of it.
Man, the Training Chief Academy sounds very innovative because I think there's a different perception of what a training chief is, that program management is not really good at delivering training. And
Yeah.
usually take people really good at delivering training, and it's, well, you're in charge of it, but here's all the things you just mentioned with compliance and management and all the things that aren't delivering education that go into being a training chief. And some people are like, what the hell is this? What do I do?
Well, and I think you add to the complexity that in a lot of 143 cities, you have folks that took the training chief job because that was the only one open, and that was the way to become a chief, but that really wasn't where they thought they would spend even part of their career. They expected to be on an engine or a ladder company and make their way to battalion chief in operations. So now you've dropped them in training, either because of 143 or maybe it's a local policy that everyone goes through training. But in many cases, that new training chief is spending 2 years most of that just figuring out how to do the training chief job while waiting to get back on a truck. And so there's this cycle that we see get repeated in training divisions. We think that we can bring a program and some resources that will help organizations through that transition.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I'm excited to see that one go. So, all right, so like here we are. Right? We could chat for a while. So, to bring this back to talking about opportunities that I got to meet you at one of these opportunities, as a matter of fact, was year one of the Texas Fire Chiefs Academy, where you were there and you offered us attendees an opportunity to come speak with you. That open invitation. Here's 20-minute time frame. Here's where you sign up. We got to pick whenever the heck was convenient for any of us to come see you. Any topic we wanted to talk about. You even gave us a few ideas. Here's some hot topics. You want to talk about those things? And it clicked pretty fast in my mind of, well, that's something I'm going to go do. And I knew your name. I had heard of your reputation. I had never met you before.
Right.
And my boss and my boss's boss at the time, like they know you. They're running the same circles. I'm like, this could be, I could stand to really embarrass myself in front of somebody that knows my boss, or maybe I can walk away with something.
Yeah.
So I didn't know what the heck we were going to talk about. I hadn't figured that one out yet. I didn't know when, but I decided I was going to come have a conversation.
I remember.
And so to start down that, how come you do that? What do you get away from this professionally and personally by offering it? And what are you hoping we as attendees were seeing about this?
Well, I think that's a great question, Kevin. And I think I have to paint a little bit of a mosaic of kind of what motivates me kind of in this phase of my career. I clearly have fewer years out my windshield than I do in the rearview mirror. All right. I'm not going to do another 47 years in the fire service. I've also witnessed throughout my career dozens and dozens of people that we allowed to serve their last shift, get in their car and drive out of the parking lot, and with them institutional knowledge, wisdom, never even gave them a chance to do something like this. Like, on your way out the door, give us the three things that were most important, to keeping this career, something that was engaging, something that brought you joy. We don't even do that with so many. And so part of my motivation is I want to leave everything on the field. I want to, when I'm really ready to hang it all up, I want to feel like I gave away everything I could. Now, at the same time, some will interpret that as being pretty arrogant, that, I have this belief that I have all this. That's not it at all. I have this belief that I have learned some things, 47 years of change, and there's been a lot of change. We can go down all kinds of rabbit holes of the things we do today that don't look at all like they did in 1978. And I've bumped my head along the way. I've had political issues that have been difficult. I've had financial issues in fire department that have been difficult. I've clearly graduated from the School of Hard Knocks, and if there's any of that somebody can get some benefit from, I want an opportunity to share that as part of this overreaching desire to just leave it all in the field, and not believing that I'm some big deal. There's a lot of fire chiefs that have done 50 years. I met one last week in Louisiana. He's still active as a fire chief, and he's already over 50 years in the business, and just dynamic individual. I don't view myself that way at all, but I do want to continue where I can to give back. The other part of it is this, is I'm trying not to stop learning. I'll share something here that I haven't even had a chance to share with my wife yet, and that is this week while traveling, I've actually been, my downtime, my time on the internet has been looking at master's degrees. Like I don't have a desire to serve as fire chief again, but just the idea of learning, I'm actually intrigued about the possibility of going back to school. So when I invite you in to visit with me, there's at least 60 or 70% of that I'd love to hear what your perspective is on things. Not that I believe that mine is so valuable.
I like it. And I was just thinking that we get more experience, we get more years, and I think it's really easy to forget the value of us learning from younger folks.
Right.
That we have brand new people out of paramedic school, we got brand new people out of fire school, and they should be the ones learning the most current techniques to approach our business. Mm-hmm. And what a great opportunity to challenge the way we've always done things with new ideas. And
and I think
it's just easy to overlook it, right?
Yeah, and I think particularly now in the fire service, I think that there are some unique challenges as younger generations come into the fire service, particularly, for guys that are in my genre or approaching my genre. We had a certain style of management that we grew up with, and for most of our career, we've had a certain style of management that's worked. And I've come to believe, and I spend a lot of time talking about this, that style won't continue to work. We've got to spend more time with people younger than us, learning about how they communicate. How do they find joy in the job? How do they feel valued? If we don't meet them where they're at, then we're going to continue to have conversations and seminars and conferences around recruitment and retention, because they're going to go out the back door as quickly as they're coming in the front door. If we don't learn to meet them where they're at, this day and age of the way in the importance of the internet, the importance of social media, that phone. I grew up in the 60s, and I grew up before cell phone, before the internet, and some of the things that we learned and some of the management and leadership styles that we were exposed to absolutely aren't going to work today. And I tried desperately to, as long as I'm going to continue to be in this field of helping others become better leaders, the only way I can be effective is to also be willing to learn how to be a better leader. And that includes visiting with a lot of folks that are coming into our business.
Like, that's admirable. And I saw this as an opportunity for me. Like I said, I'd known your reputation. I feel like there's some knowledge to be gained there. And I joke, I have 3 teenage daughters, so I'm told on a regular basis that I don't know anything,
right,
and I'm wrong.
Yeah,
so it's very comfortable for me to be wrong. But here I am at the Fire Chiefs Academy to learn, to get knowledge, to get better at what I do. And I don't think soaking in all the words of somebody else is, like, the interaction is valuable. The dynamic is important. And I think there was a lot of good interaction going on that week. That's what I was there for. Mm-hmm. So why not take this enhancement opportunity? And what I was prepared for is, I had put a couple ideas that I lined out, but I was ready for being told I was off base. And nope, you're seeing that in a wild way, and better calibrating to another approach, that if I'm going to go pour time and energy into something, at least let me go in the right direction. Mm-hmm. Or be validated that, hey, that's right. Mm-hmm. Or get some extra peripheral view of it, that at the time I wasn't in the position I was in. I was actually at the very front of it, that our fire chief at the time had just announced that he was going to retire and move on to his next endeavor. So we didn't know what the future of our leadership structure here in this department looked like. And that was also part of it as well. Hell, like, is the department going to need more things from me? Do I want to offer more things to the department? But it was, I don't know that I'd say it was comfortable, but I wasn't worried about being uncomfortable. That here's this unfamiliar person. Mm-hmm. I didn't know your views on a whole lot of things. I didn't know how you were going to see these things that was thrown at you. And I think that was the exciting part of it too. That it was, sure, a little bit of nerves, but man, it was exciting. Like, what if I am on the right track? What if this person with this experience and this wisdom and this kind of reverence, like, thinks I'm on the track, or is willing to get me to the right track? So I saw this as I thought a pretty low risk opportunity, because really, like, what's the worst? I go in there and you say you're an idiot. Yep. Like, you can leave now. You're done. Okay. Yep. Like, you come back and tell my boss, hey, this guy of yours came in and he's an idiot. It's no news to them. They already met me. So,
I didn't think that was going to be a problem.
No, but actually, I really enjoyed our conversation, and I toyed with signing up for a couple more times. Like, maybe I want to spend some more time with this guy. But what I noticed when I went and signed up for a time is there was an awful lot of availability on those sign-up sheets, and not a lot of times taken. Is that Is that a pretty typical thing? Is that a regular experience?
Yeah, I try to routinely make myself available to students for any one-on-ones. And I think the answer to your question of it's pretty typical that there's only a few that come and take advantage of it. And you hit on, I think, 3 or 4 reasons why that happens. And each one of them is worth spending a couple of minutes on. I think it doesn't matter whether you're in the fire service or in any other business. I think if you have an opportunity to visit with anybody that's got 30, 40, 50 years in this business, it's worth taking a chance of just meeting them. Like, I've always been drawn to people that have stuck with something for that long, right? Like the perseverance. I also love history. So, somebody's been doing something for 30, 40, or 50 years. I want to know what it was like way back when. But you pick any 100 or any 1,000 people, you probably lose a third that don't have those same interests.
Mm-hmm.
You talked about the possibility that you might be viewed as an idiot. You probably have some number out of every 100 that are afraid of the same thing. That, well, what if I'm judged to be below par, or whatever that is. Like, somehow in our programming, and I've done a lot in retirement, trying to better understand brain science. Somewhere in our programming, maybe our family of origin, we have grown up in this environment that even though we say there's no such thing as a stupid question, somewhere there's programming that says, no, there are some stupid questions, and I don't want to be embarrassed by asking one of those. And so that keeps people kind of at distance. I think the other thing is, as a society, we're losing this. We're losing face-to-face, unscripted. Tell me what's going on in your life. Let me tell you a little bit about what's going on in mine. We want the polished, edited, best view that we can display for someone. And whether we consciously strive to achieve that or not, I think social media has played a tremendous role in making us all sensitive of what am I showing, and are we willing to show our authentic self? And particularly in the fire service, boy, I hope we don't lose that. When we talk about mental health and wellness, we can help each other far better when we can be authentic with one another.
Yeah. And to that end, like, we historically have not been great as an industry respecting vulnerability.
Exactly.
We eat our young.
Absolutely.
Especially when you talk about the mental health realm, that has gotten tremendously better just in my 20 years seeing things. But man, like, you come in and you're kind of conditioned to not show a weakness. Don't you dare.
Absolutely.
And I think we see something like, here we are, hens coming home to roost here. So
right. And then just a conversation where you don't know where the conversation is going. Where might it go? What if I'm asked a tough question I don't know the answer to? Again, some of our programming is, what if I have to say I don't know? I mean, the number of times that I've had to say to a city manager, I don't, or a city council, I don't know, but I'll get back to you. I'll go find the answer. Like, it's not that scary to not have the answer to a specific question. And I think in too many cases we are all missing opportunities to learn and to grow. And again, for me, some of those conversations, I'm learning so much about myself, and particularly when you compare it to other generations. Things that, for me, we had a conversation this week recanting a story from a few months ago. I've kind of come to learn over the last several months that properly punctuating text messages may actually be offensive to people. I would have never known that if I didn't start having conversations that were unscripted and vulnerable and be willing to be wrong. That's I think the bottom line is I think good leaders embrace the possibility of being wrong. They learn to speak last.
Mm-hmm.
They accept input from all perspectives and accept the possibility that they're wrong.
I think that's something we have to embrace because, God help us if we continue being wrong, just for the sake of never challenging it, never taking an opportunity to see if we are right, validating findings.
Right.
How dangerous can that really be? So, at the very least, we take our company, our department, city in a poor direction, but we get on the fire ground and are unwilling to make sure we're right and making a good decision. That could be catastrophic. So,
Yeah, for sure. And this week we've had a great class here in Sugar Land. It has been fun to be with these folks and introduce them to this. Just a lot of leadership principles, and one of them is this idea that I feel like we have to guard against. If you arrive at a belief, you'll spend the rest of your career collecting evidence that you're right.
Mm-hmm.
So our perspective matters so much. And let's say it's a brand new fire chief. It's come into your organization. He or she's been there 30 or 60 days. If we're not careful, if we arrive at a belief that this is a chief that doesn't know what they're talking about and is not in touch, then all we'll do is look for evidence that belief is right.
Mm-hmm.
And I think in all of our relationships, it serves us well to be careful about recognizing that we've arrived at a belief at all. Some of our listeners might believe I'm an old man that's long beyond having something to pass on, and that's okay. But it will inform everything else that you listen to for the rest of this podcast, because you'll be looking for evidence that you're right.
It's valuable. It's valuable. So, as we start to kind of round things, I think it's worth mentioning again that as we talk about this opportunity, this chance to kind of put it out there, the audience that you put this to are incumbent chief officers that are here to learn, aspiring chief officers, brand new chief officers, that these are leaders at a certain level. And what we're seeing is this apprehension to take an opportunity for the variety of reasons we talked about. But it's actually it's something that Jocko and Leif talk about with their stuff in Extreme Ownership of ruthlessly opportunistic.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, some of their stuff comes across with a certain tone of aggression, and they like their war stories with it, but they're not off base with to be a leader, to identify opportunities and take opportunities and not be, maybe it sounds extreme, but to call it risk averse to having this conversation, because what if these things go poorly? But what about the big opportunities where there legitimately is a risk, and how much is that going to lock you up or shut you down when there's legitimate risk to it? And the only risk here is maybe some social capital at most.
Right.
That these are leaders at a certain level in the organization, and I feel like it's a reasonable expectation that we shouldn't exactly be hesitant for these kind of opportunities, to challenge ideas, for the opportunity to be told, no, hey, I think you're off base. Or even at the very least, we come into this conversation, and I say, here's my idea, and you say, you're out in left field, that's crazy. And I say, no, here's the evidence that I've collected to support my idea. Here's the viewpoint, and here's why I am where I am. That I think really a lot of it comes down to being uncomfortable and a little bit of that fear. But I think Stu Smith is his name, is an old Navy SEAL that I latched onto. Of like, we have to be comfortable being uncomfortable with things, especially leadership period, this level in the organization. There's a lot of uncomfortable things that need to happen. And one of the ideas I try to prepare for is the hallway conversations at City Hall. Mm-hmm. I want to have the right information of what we're giving our attention to and what's important to us and what's the next argument that we need to make, so that when that opportunity shows up, I happen to be in the elevator with that assistant city manager and it's, oh, hey, glad I caught you. To capitalize on those opportunities is undervalued, in my opinion. And this being one of them, of to be at that level, I think it's reasonable to expect you should be able to get out there and be willing to be uncomfortable, be willing to be told, hey, I think you're wrong. Like I said, go raise some teenagers. You'll get used to being told you're wrong.
Told you're wrong.
It's fine. It's okay. So I think it brings a bit more relatability and approachability to our leaders, that acknowledge you may be wrong. It's possible. Holy
Yep,
cow, you're
absolutely.
a human being. Go
Yep.
figure. And even just in my short time, and I came through some military time, like that's not often the view of leadership, that it's you have to be right 100% of the time. Don't you ever be wrong, and fake it till you make it kind of stuff. And I feel like that comes at quite a cost, when it's more valuable that you can be a human being and you're willing to be vulnerable.
Yeah, there's a few things I want to respond with. Number one, let's start with where you ended. I think in some ways, we've been programmed with messages like "fake it till you make it," "don't let them see you sweat," and I think we've taken some of that to extreme. I think there's an issue of authenticity that's a requirement in leadership, and so the premise behind never let them see you sweat was not never let them see you sweat. It was intended to relay this sense of I'm able to bring a sense of order back to other people's chaos. But it doesn't mean that I did that without sweating, without worrying about the safety of the men and women that I charged with tasks, right? And so I think we took some of those lessons a bit too far. I think this other issue of potentially finding yourselves into a situation where you might be wrong, or you realize that you're wrong. There was a writer, Craig Groeschel, talks about reality is the point at which truth hits you in the face. If I believe I'm capable of something, the reality is when the truth comes out that I'm not capable of doing it. That's reality. But I think societally, we're headed down a completely different path. We're headed down a path where disagreeing is causing a lot of collateral damage. Like it seems to me that it's becoming harder and harder to have viewpoints that disagree with and maintain a good relationship. And it wasn't always this way. The fact that you might feel differently about societal issues, and I don't care if it's gun control or the right to life, we could still disagree, have a debated discussion about it, and then go have dinner together. Like the friendship weren't at risk just because you disagreed on a topic. And so that's working against us. And then finally, we talk about, some of the leadership stuff that the state chiefs have been, I think, on the leading edge of is getting us to do things from a leadership perspective, or offering opportunities from a leadership perspective that most of us didn't get growing up in this business. We've spent 98% of our intellectual and financial capital teaching you how to bring order to other people's chaos on the fire ground. But we've spent arguably less than 5% on teaching you how to lead. You've learned to lead either from good or bad examples of leaders above you. You've learned to lead if you're a self-feeder because you've picked up books, John Maxwell and others, on leadership in general. You've looked at historical figures, Colin Powell and others. But we haven't invested in you. And part of our investment in you is not just bringing you good content, but bringing you platforms that includes access to individuals that you might not get access to before. Our academies give our students access, direct access, in the room, ask any questions you want of the Chief Executive Officer of TEACS. That doesn't happen every day, everywhere in America. And we want to encourage people to take advantage of that. The leadership of the Texas Fire Chiefs Association, our fire chiefs that collectively, they might have 500 years of experience, right? And we're making them available. Part of the awkwardness that I think a lot of folks in leadership are experiencing is because we haven't been investing in leadership development. They don't know how to have one of these conversations. Your viewers may not know that we didn't script this. We didn't plan this for weeks, right? We agreed that we were going to sit down yesterday and have a conversation, and we didn't know where it was going. This is what I think the fire service needs more of. And if throughout this conversation there are things that we disagree on, that's okay. I'm confident and I think you are, that we're still going to be friends at the end of this conversation, even if we get into something that we have completely different views on.
Mm-hmm. I would agree to that. I won't disagree with that one.
There you go.
I agree with that one. Well, I'm married to a teacher, and I hear a lot about discourse in the classroom, and there's a good, healthy benefit to that discourse, to disagreeing and challenging ideas. And I think we're in an industry that needs to be dynamic and capable of thinking quickly and sorting through solutions, and no one solution is going to fit every circumstance. But that's what we need our leaders doing, is being comfortable shifting gears and recognizing when this isn't the right course, that's the right course, and I need to adjust an idea. And heck, I'm out of ideas. You got an idea? I could use an idea if you got one. That you're right, like this kind of interaction, that kind of discourse, that's the critical thinking development that is just crucial with it. And you'd even alluded to it, that I'm really glad that we have this much leadership development in Texas, that coming up where I was in Illinois was a bit more technically focused, and we talked about fire officer training with prevention principles, and here's some other tactics and strategy, and all valuable, important things. But I know I don't need to tell you any of this, but that's just classically what we did. Is you're a good firefighter, great, you're in charge of firefighters now.
Exactly.
And failed to recognize it being a totally different skill set. And then we wonder why you suck as a company officer. And it's, well, we never taught you to do that. Or we go put you in front of the classroom or go run this drill. And teaching is a whole nother skill set to be good at something. Yeah. So I am grateful for the number of professional development opportunities that we have here locally, around the state, through all the great organizations that we have. I think we're doing the good work, and I think we're setting the industry in a fantastic direction. So,
yeah, we've got an amazing association board that is very supportive of professional development. They recognize the long-term benefit, and I also think that in some ways the fire service, I think in some ways we're going to need to figure out how to reinvent ourselves a little bit. The growing costs of things, and cities that continue to struggle financially to keep up. But I don't think we've fully leveraged our influence within our communities. This conversation that we're having, the ability to sit down and have a conversation, have different points of view, and to be able to demonstrate how we do that in a healthy manner. I think we could help turn the tide in our communities. I think fire stations, if they've still got the doors rolled shut and just waiting for tones to drop, I think they're missing a great opportunity. We could be model organizations further than just responding to emergencies. Mm-hmm. And I think our society needs organizations like ours who know how to manage conflict, who know how to collaborate, who know how to get things done, even amongst a team that may have differing views on how to get them done.
I agree. Let's pull a few summarized lessons out of this one to take away here, that we talk about opportunities. I would encourage, say yes, and then figure it out. I didn't know what we were going to talk about. I didn't know when, but that felt like an opportunity. It felt like a chance. Like, take a chance. Like, go for it. Find the people to have conversations with. Like, have the interaction. Be okay not agreeing. Mm-hmm. Learn how to respectfully disagree. Have that appropriate disagreement. That the disagreement isn't the person. Mm-hmm. There's definitely separation. And then don't lose sight of somebody's always watching. In my mind, that's my thought. I think we talk about all the reasons why somebody may not have been on that list to sign up for time, and I think at the most benign, it was just somebody didn't recognize the value. They didn't see it as I have a lot to get from that. So don't discount these opportunities. Somebody's watching, and even though this was a crowd of chief officers and aspiring chief officers, there were younger ones in the crowd looking at what are the older ones doing.
Sure.
And then we all come back to our departments, and our people are watching us and seeing what opportunities we do and don't take, and everybody's left for their own perception and the story they make up in their mind. And, well, how come Ken didn't do that? Like, is Ken scared of that? Is that not valuable? Should I not do that? That the choices we make are that behavior that we model also, that example. And we get into this role of being leaders and chief officers, that we have a little bit more impact than we think we do sometimes. So don't discount on those opportunities.
Yeah, I agree with all that. I think that one of the things that if we could stop doing something that I think oftentimes we fall into the trap of, and that is stop worrying about the opinions of so many other people, particularly those that you wouldn't go to for advice. Do what you feel is right. If you have an opportunity to spend time with someone that you think you might learn something from, or they might learn something from you, or you just get to meet somebody and just add another connection to your network of people that later you could reach out to and go, hey, now I've bumped into something I could use some help. I just think we ought to all take advantage of as many of those as come along.
I agree. Well, I'd like to leave it at those words of wisdom, unless you have anything more that you didn't get to say today.
No, I appreciate the time. This has been a lot of fun. Thanks for the invitation.
Absolutely. I really appreciate you taking the time today. So we're glad we have you in town this week. So thanks, Ken.
Awesome.
All right. Well, thanks for listening in. We'll catch you for the next one.